Welcome everyone to this Meet the Mentor session with Susan Purney Mark. I'm Dee Poisson. I'm a navigator for Mastrius, and I've been a navigator for about 2 years. I've been an artist for about 30 years, semi-professional to amateur, whatever, but I do enjoy creating. So a navigator for Mastrius is someone who sort of hosts the group on a regular basis. They're like the secretary of the group, the gatherer, the information dispenser, and just generally contact person for the group to Mastrius. And I just want to say that I'm thrilled to introduce Susan Purney Mark, and I will go to her website and I will read her bio. You may even know all of this, but Susan's bio is: as a textile artist, Susan has embarked on a life-transforming journey into the world of color, design, and pattern. Working with textiles has become her method of self-expression and the focus of her methods of communication. She has studied design, patchwork, and embroidery with the prestigious City and Guilds Institute of London, England, and has studied with internationally acclaimed teachers, quilt makers Nancy Crow, Jen Myers, Newberry, Ellen Noble, Gail Harker, and Ruth Isett. I'm not sure if that's right, Isett or Isett. Anyway, Susan
is Isett.
Is it Isett? Okay, great. Susan has also been awarded 2 certificates in art and design and textile design decoration from the Gail Harker Creative Studies Center in Washington, USA. Susan has spent the last 20 years learning, experimenting, and finally teaching a variety of surface design techniques in dyeing, painting, screen printing, and image transfers. Most recently, she has focused on mark making and textile narrative. Her work is known for its use of traditional methods with contemporary design and materials. When time permits, Susan is an avid kayaker and gardener, as well as an active member of the fiber arts community in British Columbia, and is a member of the National International Fiber and Surface Design Associations and is a qualified quilt judge. So excited, so excited. I met Susan sort of through a friend, and I just think it's amazing that I'm able to take some workshops with her and things that are really important to what I do. So it's great. So welcome. And Susan, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Dee. I think what we're going to do for this time is a little bit of sort of a general introduction, and then we have some images to showcase about my residency that I've just finished in Greece, and to talk about the mentoring program at Mastrius. We'll do some Q&A, so anytime. I'm going to pause a couple of times. So if you have questions, hang on to them, and we'll stop a couple of times. And if you want more clarification or elaboration, by all means, speak up, and we'll clarify or do whatever we can. I want you to come away at the end of this with lots of information and ideas and inspiration to move forward with. So just sort of as a general introduction, and I know a couple of you are familiar with my art practice and you've heard me speak about art residencies in the past, but I just want to kind of elaborate and maybe build a little bit more information on that. And, I think what distinguishes an art residency from maybe your own practice is the idea of being away from the familiar, being away in a different environment, having lots more time and support to focus on whatever your art practice might be. So it can be, an art residency is usually, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe longer, but generally, within that 2 to 4 week time period. I have a friend of mine who's in France right now doing an art residency too. So they are literally all over the world in just about every country. And it's for me, I think of it as a time to really go deep into an art focus, whatever that happens to be. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. But my first residency was in Iceland about 5 years ago. And I actually have a friend who's in Iceland in exactly the same place I was right now. I'm seeing her posts on Instagram and so on. And so I spent a month in Iceland with a specific focus on bookmaking, cloth, working with cloth and paper in creating narrative and books on a variety of surfaces. My second residency was a year and a half ago when I went down to Crete. And my intention was to continue with the art, the bookmaking that I had started and had been working on, but I wanted to develop it further. And I found when I got there, I was at a stop. I just couldn't seem to move forward until 2 or 3 days into the residency. My husband had been to the local museum and showed me some pictures he'd taken, and that got me into what is currently a much deeper focus on vessels. And so that was a pivot point where I realized, for one thing, I could pivot because we're the boss of ourselves. We can do what we want. There's nobody that has to say, no, you picked out what you're doing. You got to stick with it. So that was like a revelation. And the more I investigated and studied and thought about and experimented with this concept of vessels, the more things opened up to me and revealed themselves, and the more excited I became about it. And so I've continued on, not as a full-time focus, because I do have some other art that I'm making, but this was a companion that I knew would probably take 2 to 3 years before I could see it really to a point where I could see a completion point for it. So, and for me, an art residency is an opportunity to travel as well. I want to go to the places that I go to, so it's often a way of exploring a different country, a different environment, and combining that with some other travel as well. I came into Greece at the end of March and was there for almost 3 weeks, and then my husband came down, and we've been traveling since mid-April. So, and then this fall I have another residency in Sardinia that I'm excited about. So I'm going to Italy, and he'll come as well for part of that. So it's, I'm at an age where the academic sphere of art is I'm not going to work for my doctorate. I'm not going to be an art professor. Not only am I not interested in it, but I'm too old. So this is a way of combining a passion and more than one passion. So the art, the travel, the exploration, and so on. So all of that goes together. And so, Dee, let's go to, I'm going to walk you through some of the pieces I worked on, explain sort of the background and the approach the thinking I was using, and then we'll go and discuss a little bit more.
Enjoying the video? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when new Mastrius videos are added.
Okay, so, and yeah, so if you press the play up at the top, Dee.
Okay. I just wanted to remind people that if they don't want to speak up and they were worried about forgetting their question, they could always type it in the chat. So there's
absolutely
that's an option as well.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, definitely. Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Okay. So, so these are two images here. One is the building that the art residency was in, and it was 3 levels. It was a ground and 2 levels of apartments. So there were 3 apartments in there. We had our individual apartments, and then there was a studio space that we could work on, plus an outdoor patio. And the name of the art residency was Utopia Art Residency. And it was beautiful open space, very well lit. I think probably in the summertime it would get a bit hot in there. It's right near the ocean. The building was about 2 city blocks away from the ocean. And then on the right-hand side is the aqueduct that was in the old part of the town. Because, you know, when you're in a place like Greece, it's all history, you know, centuries of history. And this was an aqueduct that was built probably in the 1500s, because Greece had been ruled by the Turks, by the Ottoman Empire, for many centuries. And so this aqueduct went up to a hillside where there was a fortress and a palace. But it was a pretty cool location. Dee, can you bring up the next one? Nope. There we are. So this is the premise of the focus of my art residencies was titled Vessels, the Art of the Feminine. And my focus is, if you think about a pottery vessel or a bowl or something that is shaped to hold things, it's a very female metaphor. As a shape, a rounded shape, as we are, we have dimension, we have
Okay,
perfect, good, okay, thanks. So if you think about a vessel being a female form, and right from pre-birth, where the fetus is in a vessel, we are the vessel that carries that life, and into carrying emotions, carrying thoughts, carrying, you know, all the good things and all the not so good things that happen. We carry our emotions inside of us, and, you know, really literally we are that vessel, and our vessel changes from that before birth right through into old age, through all the stages of our lives, and finally into death. And think about that vessel as a shroud at the very end. And we're not there yet. But anyway, I work in textiles, so it was really a challenge to figure out how to form shapes with fabric, and then of course be able to take them home again. So all except for this particular one, everything was constructed as something that could be flattened I could take it apart and flatten it and pack it. So this one, I was in the museum in Kavala and saw this kind of terracotta color. So I was painting the canvas. The interior was meant to be the exterior. What you see was planned to be the interior of the vessel, but once I got it sort of semi-finished, I thought, wow, I really like that. So I switched things around and then worked out how to create it as a dimensional by tying and stitching the side into the front and back of the vessel. And then the scissors are there because I gave it a haircut. It was all too messy. So I trimmed all the things. Next one, Dee, please. These I had so much fun with. So an art residency or a focused time is a time to explore and experiment and try different things. So these ones, I had found some, it looked like linen, but it was a synthetic at the market in the city. And I put some paint on it and tried to think about how I could make it into a vessel. So I had an empty water bottle. And so inside that blue one is a plastic water bottle with the top cut off just to hold the shape. So I wound the fabric around it, several strips of fabric, and then just started stitching these cross stitches to hold the layers together and let it be kind of ragged and rugged. And what it gave me was then the idea on how I could create dimensional things on a form, remove the form and take it home, but it would also be freestanding as well. And the two other ones are just strips of paper wound around another plastic bottle and then wrapped with the threads and tied. And sometimes our art that we create is just something that happens to work. It doesn't have a strong deep meaning, but you like it. And those two pieces were that for me. I just thought, wow, these are interesting shapes and celebrating something that works fairly well. So next one. Oh, okay. These are two of important ones that I did at the very beginning. When I went to Greece, I stayed for a few days in Thessaloniki, which is the second largest city in Greece. And I went to the archaeological museum and I saw a bronze vessel. It was about the size of maybe a small watermelon or maybe a big grapefruit. But it had been punctured with hundreds of holes and it was meant as a lantern. So if you think about, a bronze vessel with holes and then a light of some sort inside, maybe with a handle and you can carry it around and it's a lantern. So I thought, I really like this idea. So I took the fabric on the inside was some old linen, and I always work with hand-dyed fabrics. So everything I color is colored. I color it myself, so with dyes or paints or so on. So the inside linen piece, I had stretched it out on the table and taken some dilute ink and a little pipette squeeze brush and written over and over and over again, her fire burns and lights the world. And that just came to me as kind of a gift in my brain. And so I just thought, you know, the woman as the light, that vessel as the light, burning. And then, so I had stitched all these holes through, I'd punctured them with an awl, and then just did kind of a wrap stitch, trying to keep the hole open a bit, and put it onto 4 posts. So you can't see it, but inside at the bottom is actually a solid bottom. And so it stands onto those posts and is stationary like that. And I'd really like to explore that more with different adaptations, I guess. The other one on the right there is 2 rectangles of fabric that I had formed around some wire mesh. So it's bendable, but it holds its shape. You can sort of force it into different shapes. And, you know, when we work as artists, we work as community, and we're always looking at other art. We're researching different artists and different ways of working. And I had seen somebody on Instagram, he's a potter or a clay artist from Cornwall in England by the name of Craig Underhill. And he works with slabs of clay that he forms into these vessels. And so I had put these 2 rectangles together and then stitched through, those are all little olive branches. There was a couple of olive trees in the garden at the residency. So I just used those as anchors for some stitching to hold the 2 together. And if you think of 2 rectangles forming semicircles and joining together on 2 sides. And I titled this one Embrace, because to me it was like almost like a mother and child holding each other in there. And the next one, D. So in amongst all of this, going to the museums, I'm always now taking photos of all these vessels that I find, and the Greek and Roman glass that has been unearthed and is on display has this beautiful luminosity, this opalescence of color that I just find absolutely stunning. And so I love to hang on to these photos, partly also because of the shape of them. We live in an era of uniformity. You go to IKEA and you look at the glasses, the drinking glasses or the vases, and they're all exactly the same. We love to have matching things. I think in the ancient world, that was probably really hard to do. So we don't find those matching things. They're all a little different. They're all a little bit unique in themselves. They may be similar color or similar shape, but they're always a little bit different from each other. And I think that's an interesting connection to ourselves as people, as these women. I identified that with that as that vessel shape, but we're all just, we have similar thoughts and ideas and conversations and all that, but we're all bringing something different and unique into our conversations. So next one, Dee. Okay, so let's talk in a bigger picture and a little bit about the Mastrius program that I'm starting with as a mentor. So as I mentioned before, an artist in residence is about making it yourself. It's your time, it's your focus. You're not having to do things. You change. If you want to change, you change. But it's also being able to get deeper into a focus. This piece here was, I was playing around with some caddy paper, and if you work in any kind of paper, you're probably familiar with cotton rag paper. Has a high cotton content. It's usually a bit rough, and I had come across an art store and they had this wonderful paper, and I bought as much as I could, and then I started just putting marks down, playing with some wax on the surface, and then laying water and wax and acrylic ink down on it and just letting it move. And then I was tearing it into strips and making other kinds of vessels. And sometimes it takes positioning and grouping things. And I was just so thrilled when I put these together with that branch and thought, oh, wow, this is just so neat. I love these three together. So going back, that was my little sideways. So when we look at residencies, they're almost always short term. There's a few that are 6 months to a year, but those are pretty rare. But we work in the long term. We're working towards skill building. We're not doing something for a month, and I'm talking about when we're at home. We're not doing something for a month and then moving on with something. We're really thinking longer term and thinking about mastery, like working towards the most excellent work that we can possibly do. And that's not something that happens short term. It's something that takes time, and we work towards that. Next one, Dee. Oh, actually, is there any questions? Is there anybody who wants to speak up and ask questions?
I noted that your display and your photos with the buttons and the green paper on paint on paper in the last slide was amazing.
Wasn't it? It just, individually, each of those things were kind of cute and fun and lighthearted. But when you put it together, it just worked so well. Yeah, thanks, Dee.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, yeah, one of the things that I really, really stress for myself, and when I'm working with anybody in a group, is it's not just about making the art, putting the paint down, stitching something. It's about all the other things that go towards your focus. I'm a big fan of journaling or morning pages. So if you're familiar with Julia Cameron and her Artist's Way, she talks about morning pages, and that before you do anything in the morning, spending time and just putting your thoughts down on paper. And it has taken me a while to get feeling that it's an important part of my art practice. But more and more, I find that when I do it, I have more clarity. I have little brain sparks, oh, I never thought of that. And here I've written it down, and that was a new thing to me. Journaling or a sketchbook, so little experiments, thoughts and ideas, what I want to do, – research. And I would have never been able to go into this focus for the residency if that research hadn't happened. So it might be going to the museum, going to the gallery, buying some books, going to talking about my ideas with other people. And so I have this idea of what I wanted to do to make larger vessels. And it wasn't until I sat and talked it out and verbalized it that it became something that I realized was possible. So those are really important things that I find. So just before you go on, Dee, I just want to mention the background for all the photos in this presentation are the fabric. It's a picture of the fabric that I had done for that bronze fire lantern thing. So I had taken a photo of it. So just as an aside. Okay, let's try another one. Now this is one of the things that I really think is important, and I encourage people to do when I work with them, is a mind map. And a mind map is a way of getting some connections down. This is what I tried to find the photo of a mind map that I had done, and I couldn't. But this is a list of all the ideas that I had about my vessels and the different stages of a woman's life. So let me just clarify that this isn't a mind map, but it shows words and connections and some flow in there. And so with a mind map, you start with a central idea, and then you work as you think about maybe the map of an underground subway system, and one leads to another that leads to another, but they're all connected in some way. So, and just as an aside, this photo of the vessels was another one where I thought, okay, I see all these vessels laid out, and because I was thinking about, if I'm doing this whole collection of dimensional objects, how do I display them? And so I saw this in the museum, and I thought, oh, right, I could just lay them out as a progression from one end to the neck to the other end as that work from birth into death. So that was, every time I go to a museum, there's something that grabs me and makes me think about something, some connection. Okay, next one. So I talked about the mind map, and now I wanted to talk about intention. And I know that there's a couple of people here that have worked with me on this. And an intention is a bit of a plan, and it's not I must or I will. It's more like why I want to and what I want to do and how I might do it. And so it's the written form of a mind map where you're writing it down and thinking about that brain-hand connection. We can visualize, we can try and remember, but if we write things down in a book or a sketchbook or some plan, then it gives it more life, more validity. So then this was an interest. We were in a gallery of a contemporary Greek artist who had some amazing, huge work. And he worked with vessels. He worked with the human form in a very simplified, abstract way. He worked with pottery. He worked with portraiture. He was a metal fabricator. He's an art professor in one of the universities in Greece. And so he was working with more contemporary ideas for vessels and how the shapes in that instance are more animal forms than human. But I like the way he had drawn them, and they were just little quick sketches, but just that visual reminder of what his ideas had been. So the next one, Dee. So these are my three things that I love to elaborate on about an art focus, or working potentially in a residency, but in other ways is it's a time to explore and experiment. And I still have to keep reminding myself that when I'm in a residency or within a time away, it's okay to experiment, and it's okay to fail, and it's okay to make ugly stuff. It doesn't have to be a perfectly finished gallery quality object. This is a time to do those experiments and establish that framework that now I can move forward and into other more planned, more towards what I want to finish. So this image here was another revelation, and I had written in my latest blog post about how this showed me if I was going to do these vessels, the vessels themselves could be pieces that are put back together. So this was more like a construction revelation than an aesthetic. It was, I could do components that are then fit back together in some way. And, if you wanted to expand that as a metaphor, we are all pieces of things that get put back together from time to time. We have to, that phrase of picking up the pieces. So there we are. Okay, so D. So this is absolutely the key component, I think, of making art, whether it's in a residency or a mentorship program. Its community is essential. We cannot create in isolation with nothing else around us. So this was our final exhibition. We had an exhibition at the end, and Emma is the tall one. She was from Australia and was an acrylic artist. And Vivian was the facilitator for the residency. She was Greek and lived locally, so she was our go-to person to help us out. She wasn't in a mentorship role, but she did give us support and answered questions, made suggestions, and so on. And then the person who isn't in the photo, and I guess I didn't grab her at the right time, was Nazim, who was Iranian but living in Greece. And so we had some really good connections, really good conversations about art, about being women, and supporting one another and encouraging them. And I think that's the community is about building the relationships, about asking each other, okay, I have this idea, or I need to figure out something, and sharing that information with each other, and also being accountable by saying, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to work on. Let me know what you think, or remind me that this is the thing that I need to do for next week or whatever. So that community part is so critical. Okay, so is there more, Dee? I can't quite remember. Yes, so here's some information about the Mastrius program. We begin June 4th, and we meet and it shouldn't say every Tuesday, it should say the first Tuesday of every month at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So in the Mastrius program, we meet as a group on Zoom once a month for a 2-hour session. But in between time, there is so much more, and I'm going to ask Dee to talk about it in a second. But these are some of the ways that I'll help you. And the program doesn't have to be a profitable career focus. It could be just building a body of work. It's about what your goals are, not what my goals are. And we'll talk about our art practice. We'll talk doing brainstorming, some problem solving. If you want how to build a series, we can talk about process. We can talk about things like social media and all of those if you choose, but that's up to you and how you can plan your time best. So, Dee, do you want to pop in and just mention the other things that are going on?
Sure.
Within
So Mastrius has an abundance of free for member events and things that you could take part in addition to our group. But within the group, we also have a mid-month that happens 2 weeks after the main session. That's where we get to brainstorm and network and sort of help each other and encourage each other, and also decide if there's things that we want to learn as a group from Susan, and we can talk about that. So there's Susan, it's a meeting that Susan does not attend. So it is just a session for group members alone. So that's it. Yeah.
And can you mention, Dee, about the chat part in the group?
Yeah. Okay. So we have there is a full website, and the our group will have its own page similar to a Facebook page, but it's private to just us and Susan, and we can share ideas and things and post things in there that we want commentary on, or to talk about something, a direction that someone's going on, or even ask Susan questions within that content area in Mastrius on their website.
Okay, Dee, can you close off the PowerPoint?
Do you want me to stop sharing?
Yeah, and then we can see each other. There, that's better.
Okay.
Oh, good. So,
Okay.
there, excellent. So, any other thoughts or questions? Audrey, hi.
Hi. So this might not be the right place to ask this question, but Susan knows me, like we live on the same island, so she kind of knows what I do. But as usual, I just sort of I change direction on things. And so I have in my head that all of a sudden I should become a sewer, and I don't know really how to sew. But I have the ideas in my head of the things that I want to sew, using upcycling clothes, mixing fabrics and stuff. But I need the execution is the problem. I have in my head what to do, but I don't know how to execute it. Would a group like this help me with that?
Yes. Yeah.
Bernice, you're laughing.
Oh, okay.
Bernice is laughing.
And I started as I went into textiles too. I'm not a quilter. But I decided that I wanted to learn how to do that. I have done some sewing, but yeah, I mean, between what we ask each other in questions in our mid-month and what Susan or our mentor would have to offer for that, and even resources of where to go to find things. Resources are really important in Mastrius, because none of us are experts at anything. So we all learn from each other and we share information so that we can learn. So yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I bought, a friend of mine is selling her next to new serger, and I've bought it, and I'm still trying to figure out how to use the tension on my sewing machine. So like, this is how, like I'm just going in the deep end here.
Yeah.
But and as you say, it's the resources, because I don't know where to go and I get off on a tangent. So I need to help with the focus. Where do I go to find, and this will help me do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Besides, I know where you live.
Yes, you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
But yeah, I mean, I think all of us have multiple rounds of expertise, and as Dee mentioned, she has done some sewing. I have done some sewing. My serger is on the shelf in my closet and probably will never see the light of day again, but I do understand the way of it working. And it's also a mentor is also always learning. I don't have all the answers, but I can help you, and the others in the group can help you get the answers.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Group learning is a great way to embark down a trail of when you're not familiar with technique and ideas. I mean, I've learned so much from every group that I belong to. So just because there's little things that I never heard of before, and that's often what the case is.
I've done a group with Susan before, the deep dive, and that was fantastic because it was women from all over, from the States, and it was really fun that we all had our different focuses, but it was really, really good. So yeah, okay, I look forward to this.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Good.
Can I ask you
Bernice,
Can I ask you a question that's not about Mastrius?
of course.
Oh, good. Don't know how to phrase it now. It's put me off. When you've worked with, right at the beginning, Dee was saying who the people were you'd worked with. And I wondered how, when you've worked closely with people, say a strong character like Nancy Crow, how you managed to keep your own focus and not be totally influenced by her practice.
I think it was, I did a program with her, and she is definitely a very strong, super intelligent woman. But I think what I took away from that was that I can develop my own voice. It wasn't copying or even using a lot of her techniques. But one of the things that she made us do, she had copious notes on, I think it was like big sheets of paper, or maybe it was a blackboard or something. She didn't give us handouts. She told us, you have to copy this. You have to write it down yourself. By me handing it to you in a note, in a handout, it's not much use. But when you write it down yourself, and I think the workshop I did with her made me pivot from a traditional quilter into what you might term an art quilter, and seeing that I could take it up so many different levels in with textiles. And I don't work that way much anymore, but I think, you know, that was something that really gave me a pivot. Now I did do, and you're familiar with Ruth Issett, who is another British textile artist. And what I did with Ruth was to learn the techniques. You know, certainly design was a really important part of what we did in that City and Guilds program, but learning the techniques was equally as important as well.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I've done
yeah,
workshops with Ruth Issett, and some of them were color based, some were mixed media, some were just actually shading. I'm in a day of shading to get, you know, so you could see from very, very light to very, very, actually I think we went the other way, very, very dark to very, very light, just with a graphite pencil. So yeah.
Yeah, and you know, time also gives you the ability, you know, you take something and you don't realize the impact until maybe, you know, a few months or even a few years later, and think, oh yeah, that I remember doing that. And you internalize the information and make it your own in a unexpected ways too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good. So I'm hoping to see you. I'm heading home next week, and looking forward to being back in my garden as well. And you know, if you have any questions, you know who I am, and you know how to get in touch with me. I'd encourage you to explore that Mastrius website, because there is so much there, including other masses of other artists, textile people. Joe Cunningham is there, Rosalie Dace, Lisa Rich, who's a Canadian textile person. Who else are the textile people, Dee? Do you
I don't
remember offhand?
No, but there's
the
list is long and wide anyway.
Yes, yeah, it certainly is. There are just some wonderful artists, and including, if you feel so inclined, they're starting to bring in musicians as mentors, right?
Yes, they are. So I just want to show, if I can share screen again. And let's see, this is Susan's page. So when you go to, nope, that's your website. Okay, let's go back to the other. Yeah, as always, you know, I always find something that let me see this. Let me see if I can find this again. no, I must have closed that page down, so I won't. But anyway.
Okay.
So if you go to the website for Mastrius, you will find Susan's session sign up page there. And plus all of the others and any of the others that are also might be down your alley. And you'll get information that comes back from Mastrius. There's a request to fill out some information as to, you know, what you hope to get out of the sessions and things like that, and what your background is. And that's always good information to have for Susan and for me. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Mhm.
Good. Well, thank you so much for being here. And I know Audrey's just starting her day, and Beck and Bernice are
Cooking the
almost
dinner.
dinner time. Yeah, yeah. Anna, where are you?
I am in Calgary, so
Oh,
11
okay.
a.m.
Close by.
Yeah.
Close to me.
What are you
Yeah,
busy
yeah.
doing,
Good,
Anna?
good. Okay.
What are you busy doing? I see
I'm
brushes.
just I'm just painting some backgrounds. I was just like creating some art makings for.
Oh, cool. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for showing.
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Susan. That was
excellent.
fabulous.
Anna organizes some of our events and things that we do. So, for Mastrius.
Good. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll be in touch. Hopefully see you again. You know where I am if you have questions. So
Yeah.
Great.
okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.